Alright, so Discord's been acting weird, so I don't expect anyone to really join in this one, but that's completely okay. And also, my camera's being weird, so I can't make a recording with my camera on. But that's fine too. This was what it was normally, anyways. Ooh, let me take that, that off. That off. There we go. Alright, so to give updates to the game itself, we had a bit of a hiccup, bit of my bad on that part where we had problems coordinating the next meeting, but that's completely okay. We were supposed to take 2 weeks to do the memory puzzle, and unfortunately, with a week down from that, we don't have much time. So we figured out a way to try to condense that to 1 week. We were gonna do it completely. It was gonna be a Simon Says puzzle. It was gonna be completely randomized on what it was going to be, but for the sake of time and for the sake of just showing the presentation, we're just going to get a predetermined puzzle instead, to still have the same principles, but the puzzle is the same nonetheless. It doesn't really matter when it comes to a prototype exactly like how perfect the prototype is. It's just supposed to showcase, so this is actually the best route for it. So apart from that, we're gonna go with our workshop today, and I'm gonna talk about a pretty important thing when it comes to game design that I feel that is. Oops, let me change the text on that. I feel is incredibly important to talk about. It's the idea of. Oh, that was almost timed perfectly. Idea of utility. Let me change the text. I don't like that text. That text is weird. There we go. Utility. Alright. So what do I mean by utility? What I mean is that what design you insert into the game is how it's going to be used by the player themselves. Like, what is the uses of this? And we can think of some very simple examples of, like, we'll go with Super Mario Brothers. So you have Mario right here, and then you give him a design thing of jumping. Like, you press a button and Mario jumps. And what is the utility of jumping? Well, it's to go higher, right? That's a utility. And if you're going very basic, that's literally like if you don't have anything else added to your game besides that, that's the only utility, that Mario goes higher, and that's it. However, what like and we'll put the ground here for the sake of it. However, as you add more into the game itself, the utility of his elevation becomes more and more prevalent. It becomes it spreads out more. Like, for instance, now you give him the, like, let's just say you're further along into this Mario Brothers design, and you have like blocks and whatnot. All right. Now you have more options of what can be done. Generally, when people make regular platformers, the utility of jumping is to jump on the objects, right? To just jump on them, and now you have further elevation. And what people use this for is, for instance, we'll draw it down here. So now Mario has the ability to go up here, and then there's higher platforms that the player can reach to go up here. And so that's good. However, that opens it up more to create more puzzles based on elevation. But what if you want platforming that's not just based upon elevation, but based upon the other direction, vertically? So then it starts becoming a little more abstract with its utility, as in, well, how fast can Mario run? Can he run fast enough to get to these points? Is that part of the design? Or is it all about getting from one platform to another? Alright, so then you have to ask, how close to these platforms to me? Is he able to get to one point to another? Alright, so this starts like really expanding out how you want to start designing your levels. And then, of course, with Mario, you have enemies like little Goombas, like Ooh, so part of the design is that you get to jump on the Goombas. But then you add the idea of, okay, what happens when you jump on the Goombas? You get an extra jump. How high is this jump? It's just jump so much so that if you add a platform that's just say up here where normally you couldn't reach it, but you jump on the Goomba, you get high enough to reach it. So this is the pure concept of what utility is when it comes to just one concept, and that's just jumping on Mario Brothers. It's not only isolated and just what jumping does, but what jumping does with other actions, how jumping interacts with other elements of the game, how it affects how the level is. It's incredibly important to think of the utility of the action you're doing instead of just the very simple I'm going up. So a problem area that usually happens with utility is that it becomes what's the lack of word? It becomes a comforting utility to where you start adding the same utility to a lot of games. I don't know if people played many JRPGs, but a very simple one is its spells. So we'll go with like the fire spell, and all it does is does damage and like elemental damage. So what does that entail? Well, it entails that it goes after HP. So that's like the main catalyst of why you're using this spell. So you're using a offensive spell to go after the HP, which does damage, and then you use the element added to it to start to do just more damage. It's just all focused on this idea of does damage. It all roots down in there, just like how in a sense jumping, where you're just getting more, in a sense, getting more elevation. However, this comes to a problem of this is your only real like utility, to where just like does like it's not a problem to have a root utility, but what ends up happening is that when you like, let's say upgrade, we'll do upgrading spells, right? Everyone's seen this in like Final Fantasy, especially like fire, we'll call it Fire 2, sometimes called Fire, and then Fire, but we'll just go with Fire 3 for the sake of it. And what do these do that's different? Each of these do that's different from the main point, the main part, like the base one. Like this is what the base one does. It does damage and does elemental damage. It's the same. It's just more of it, and that becomes a bit of a problem because although they tried to fix it with like, let's just say 4 MP, and then the next one does 8 MP, and the next one needs 12 MP, and that's kind of the supposed to be the only, not so much punishment, but the only like thing to make you choose between them. But there's so much more like payoff to use the next spell up that it makes the other ones completely useless. So, but they're still there, and they're only there just for the sake of being there. So why not just replace them anyways? So you could just replace them. Like that's honestly a thing you could just do, to just upgrade the fire to Fire 2, upgrade the Fire 2 to Fire 3, and just completely get rid of them entirely. But what if instead you add just a more utility to what spells do in general? Like you can kind of think like oops, I did not want to do that. No, we must keep that. Okay, wait, hold on. There we go. Okay. What if you want to just you just make it do more. Like make it have more of an effect, and a and that's where kind of a utility comes into play. You add more utility to what these things do. Like how about instead of just does damage, elemental damage, how about just like spread? And some Final Fantasies have done this to, and I think it's a good step. It's to where, let's just say Fire 1 attacks all enemies, to where just like it will cost less and it hits everybody. Okay. And then Fire 2 makes it so it can attack two of them, like in an area to where you can pick two. And then Fire 3 makes it so it does a big amount of damage to one guy. Like that opens up a whole lot more to what these spells do, to where it makes it that these spells still have utility to them. You don't have to erase them. You don't have to keep them there as just there for being their sake. Some Final Fantasies have gone down the route of just like taking them out, like either taking them out entirely, or you just choosing between which spells, and then you're never going to use these spells anyway, so why keep them? But I think just adding more utility to these spells is a fantastic route to go. So let's try to think of like one more utility of these spells could possibly what these spells could possibly do. So where our main source is to do damage, like we have doing damage, and we also have the side source of elemental, and we also have the source of spread. What if we want to let me try to think of something at the top of my head, because we got MP, we got different stages, and we got different spreads. How about just like movement? And what do I mean by movement in a 2D space? Well, let me show you what I mean by that. So in most turn-based RPGs, you just have like one space of the one area, like the place you're fighting on. It's just like one central area, and nobody moves from that area. Generally, they stay when you attack them. But how about instead, there's like a blast radius. Let's say Fire 1, just like although it hits them all, it doesn't like, it generally doesn't like how about it just like, oh yes, how about it moves them back, like moves them back a little bit, like moves them all a little bit, and then you can, it's like there is a point in games in Final Fantasies to where there's two, this is apart from Fire 2, but there's two spaces you could be, like an attack space and then a defense defense line. And so you can either have enemies on the attack, you yourself on the attack line, and you yourself on the defense line. And so you could do that maybe with you can utilize that to where the more powerful the spell, the more chance you have to move them to these spots. So it can become a little strategic. So in this case, you have the Fire 1 spell has like, I don't know, like a 10% chance of knockback, and this one, even though it's like at an area where you only can hit two of them instead, it has like a 30% or something like that. 30% knockback into the defensive position, and this one has like a 70% of knockback, to where you just have one guy, boom, and they'll knock him back a lot more. That way, you can have even more strategic, it's more utility with this, to where you think about these spells a lot more than just they do damage, they cost this MP, this one does more damage than the other. So let me try to do another game example, because as much as I like Japanese RPGs, it's good to and as much as I use these as examples, it's good to have way more variety in your game design repertoire. So let me think. Let's try to think of a different example. Not RPG, not platformer. Let's just go with freaking Let's go with first FPS. Yes, a first person shooter. There is a lot of progress in this respect, and I like it. It's okay. We'll go. Okay. Let's actually put first person shooter up there. Person shooter. So we know what we're talking about. Sadly, I didn't do that for the RPG, but that's fine. All right. So we're just gonna go with guns. So like guns. And so what do? They shoot bullets. And what do the bullets do? Well, damage. And what can the guns? How can the guns shoot these bullets? Whereas like they're spread. There's different properties. There's like we'll go with like type of bullet. Type, which is spread. That's spread. Let me move this so everyone can see it. There's spread. There's a focused, which is like a sniper rifle, which is auto versus auto or semi. Oh no, actually no, we'll put that in a different category. It's like focus and then speed. Okay, auto versus semi. Okay, this is already like a gun gameplay is already has a lot that can be that we use reality to use, and so it seems like, well, I mean, you already have a lot on your plate with it, what you can do with it, so why add more? Like, oh no, you can always add more. It's a game. It's a universe of your own. So a good game that does this really well is the Ratchet and Clank series. They go bananas with their guns of like what it does. So let's just say, like, and it always has the rule of abstracting as much as possible. Like, all right, let's just go with an RPG. This is my great RPG drawing. So it's just a missile launcher, and it's just boo and then kaboom. So if we want to go with these with the utility of this, it's like, okay, the bullet is it does a lot of damage, and it's focused, and it's semi, and yeah, so it's semi, and that's kind of what it is. However, Ratchet and Clank would try to make you go, okay, what can we do to make this more? Okay, what about a spread? Like a spread rocket launcher? It's like, that's fucking nuts. Why would you do that? Like, well, why not? Just like, wow, there's multiple rockets and they all freaking blow up. It's like, why the hell not? Okay, what if instead you add another property? Let's just instead it doesn't blow the middle one blows up, but this one instead, these ones like have like a gravity effect where it sucks you into the middle one, and it focuses all on this one to where this one comes in last and blows them all up when they're all in the center. Okay, what if instead of it shooting rockets, what if instead it shoots oh, this is a Ratchet and Clank favorite. I'll do it. It's like disco balls, so that it makes them all dance when it explodes in like a radius, and so they're all stunned per se. So you can fire at them. So you can fire at them while they're dancing. It's like, it's just go bananas with it, and that's how you start adding combining utilities with this as already existing utilities, because bullets, guns usually compare with things that are real life, and so you you want to, like, it's hard to for people to, when they make a gunplay, to abstract from real life, because we see what a gun does. It's like magic is freaking magic. We can make up whatever we want and people will be fine with it. But when people think of guns, people try not to go too far outside of either what's already in reality, like the guns in reality, or the gun, or some guns that are like already like in fiction, sci-fi universes, was like lasers and crap, which is not bad, but it's still trying to constrain itself to what a gun is. To combining already existing um, realities is fun, uh, and it really like shoots off to uh, what you're trying to what your main goal is for these games. Of course, if you're dealing with like already pre-existing not pre-existing, but if you're already dealing with like realism as like a thing, like Call of Duty, um it's a lot harder to abstract from this because people do like the realism of it. But even Call of Duty goes farther from realism, and the next example is the freaking knife. Everyone knows the joke of like you have a knife, and that's a giant knife for this player, and I wish I had a right board, but nonetheless, you have freaking soldier, and you have another soldier with a freaking, like a AK-47 instead. Oh, he has some longer arms, but you know what I'm talking about. And the joke is that he can get really close, and this guy can just like start spraying bullets, and this guy will still live, stab him, and recover all his health, no problem. Even with a game like Call of Duty, to where you want to be as realistic as close to reality as possible, you really don't. Like, it will. Nobody likes reality. Reality freaking sucks, and that's why we play games. So you want to add. You want to stamp it down on that you did. Anyway, I am going a little off topic, so apologies for that, but I wanted to make sure that we get that into here. Um, let's start. Let's get into the idea of taking away utilities from normal games, and we'll go back to the platform idea that I think is a valuable lesson in this. So most platformers, you have like the main goal of a platformer is to like get to one point a level, to one point and another. It's like hopping from platform to platform, and we'll just do platform to platform. And so most of the time this is done by jumping, and oops, I didn't mean that to sound condescending, but most of the time it is by jumping and moving left and right, and that's the main thing. However, it's like even though this is like so core to what a platform is, and all of these platformers have these, and it'd be almost crazy to take out any one of these main core mechanics. What if we do? How would we make a game of that? What would start like what would happen to the utility of any of these if one of these core ones were taken out? All right, let's do that. Let's take away jumping entirely. How would a platformer game be made with that? Well, we'll start highlighting the importance of moving left to right. So let's look at this as an example of an idea I've had. Let's shrink this brush so we can make it fine. Alright, so let's just say each level you start at the top. You don't have the capability to jump. but you do have the capability to fall. And so you have these platforms down here that you have to start falling down to, and then let's just say right here you have like moving platforms that move left and right, and so now you have to start timing timing your jumps. Anyways, I want to go over here to go to the next one down, and then now that you're on this platformer, how about instead you have a platform that moves left and right, but it's like really fast, just like whoosh. So you have to time it even more. And then let's just say there's a wobbly platform, and so it's just like woo. So it's a lot harder to fall onto it. And then let's just say you have a brittle platform. Now let's go. Let's move it over here. So like, whoa. And then let's just say you have a brittle platform, where it's just like platforms that are just like ready to break, and so you have to decide what you want to do quickly, and so it's all based upon how you move left to right. That is the only thing that matters. So it's good to think of the utility of your core mechanics a lot more than just because they're supposed to be there, like this jumping, like this example, to where they can have way more utility than the basic ones that were already pre-decided for them. Let's look at having moving left and right as a thing you take away. Well, how the hell do you do that? Well, you're kind of working backwards the same way as we did to the jumping one. Let's just say you have your guy right here. Let's move over here so we can do it in order. So your guy right here, we'll split up, and you have platforms instead that moves. It's like you just have these platforms that all move in various ways. And instead, what if we made it to where now we're going to add more things that the character can do? Like, what if the character can slow down time? And we can, we can also do it. We could have done it in the one where we're just moving left and right. And so as the character goes up, what if instead you have the character can now jump like really high, and so you have this platform right here. It's like you're trying to get to this platform. It's just like, okay, how can I get to this platform if I can't move left or right? Or what if there is a block that moved left and right? And so the character would have to jump up here and have the platform move him over here. So you're just using the jumping mechanic, and the level itself is moving the character around. It's it gives and obviously we can have other examples to where instead you have like a double jump or a floating jump, or or a jump to where, let's just say, we've had this, I've seen this in like Wario games before. You jump super high and you smash into a pancake, and then you instead float down, and there's like a wind current. And so the only way you can get picked up by that wind current is if you were small, flattened pancake, and it drags you over here to this platform instead. So like those ideas you could do that is you're just using jumping, and that's it. But it could still be a lot more. You could still add a lot more utility, a whole lot of utility in just that jumping in itself. Oops, I take that away. I think that's about it. I don't have much else when it comes to utility, but and I will attempt to come up with more examples. Later on. Those were were the simpler examples that you could branch off from there to see how utility is expressed, and the importance to make sure that whenever you add something to the game, that it can be expressed in as highly as possible, as like not focus you have used the utility of this thing as much as possible instead of just being a throwaway thing. Um, anyways, that's it for today. I hope everyone had some good lessons with learned something from this, and I'll see everybody later.